Of all the marketing buzzwords that are thrown around so often in the world of video games, none is more often repeated and often forgiven than the word nonlinear. When was the last time you played a truly nonlinear game? I don't mean a game with a big world that you can dick around in and make stuff explode. I mean a game where you can actually sort of have some degree of freedom about the way you want to play by expressing yourself through some nonlinear mechanics. Take a game like Infamous, which claims to be about nonlinearity and freedom like most sandbox games do, but in reality, you only get certain powers when the game wants you to have them, so that's scripted. You can only use certain missions when certain missions become available, so that's scripted. You can only complete most of those missions in one or two ways, usually coming down to like shooting people in the head or shooting people in the head from the top of a roof. And the world you're in is really big, but you can only really get around it in one or two ways, and there's nothing to do in that world apart from just shooting at other people. I'm not trying to pick on Infamous because I actually kind of like Infamous, but most nonlinear sandbox games are like this. The only difference between a nonlinear game and a linear game in current terms is that in a nonlinear game, you get to spend a lot of time going from one area to another, doing linear missions. Games have managed to basically shove linear, not that great gameplay down our throats by wrapping it up in this little tortilla of, that's awful metaphor, a tortilla of nonlinearity that's really just a big world that you run around in before you do the nonlinear shit. It's like the games are saying, yeah, I know there's only actually like one or two ways you can do this mission, but hey, at least you get to spend 15 minutes running across the city to get to it, right? That's kind of cool, right? But it's kind of not, because we don't actually have any real nonlinear freedom. It's just a buzzword like any other buzzword. When GTA 3 came out, I was reading this review, and this guy was talking about there's this mission where you have to kill this Chinese cook, and when you run up to him on foot, he runs to his car and then drives away, and the guy failed because he couldn't chase him in time. So instead, he's thought, well, I'll go to his car. He went into his car, took it to 8 Ball's bomb shop, got a car bomb installed in the car, came back, parked it, chased the Chinese cook. The Chinese cook went into his car to run away. The car exploded and killed him. That is nonlinear gameplay, but I will be goddamned if I can think of too many other examples in mainstream games. I mean, apart from games that sort of dabble in it like GTA 3, just for a couple shining moments in GTA 3, or a game like Metal Gear Solid 3 that has a lot of nonlinear possibility within it, but it's not very good at like showing that because it's too easy. I haven't really seen any examples of that in mainstream games, which is a bummer because a lot of indie games do it really well. Dwarf Fortress, even though I'm too stupid to actually figure out how to play it or I'm too impatient to learn, allegedly has so much emergent gameplay, so many object and mechanic relationships that make it infinitely replayable and infinitely enjoyable for these people who can play, these lucky few, or just intelligent few, that it leads to some incredible stories and incredible experience. There's this one story about Dwarf Fortress that I heard where this guy had sent out an army to this mine to take it back, but he hadn't like properly equipped his soldiers or something like that, so they all got slaughtered. And since in Dwarf Fortress, every single character has it's not pre-programmed in the sense it's scripted, but it's generated by the game engine. They have a mood meter that sort of measures how happy or sad they are, and they have a family tree that every character actually has actual relatives in the world who they have some sort of emotional connection to. So everyone in the entire army got slaughtered except for one baby, and the baby's parents were in that army, so he saw that his parents were dead. So the baby, his mood depleted all the way. He crawled over the corpses of his mom and dad, found a pool, went inside the pool, and drowned himself. That was completely emergent of the gameplay mechanics. That was completely nonlinear gameplay. That wasn't scripted, and it was fucking amazing. There are dozens of Dwarf Fortress stories like that, and there are dozens of stories like that with any game that's actually got nonlinear gameplay. It's fucking awe-inspiring when it's done well. Like Spelunky does it on a much lower sort of scale, but it's got equally just moments in it. Like the first time I played Spelunky, there are these traps that set off when you drop past them. They'll shoot a dart out the other way, and they'll do like 2 damage, which is a lot of damage. And there are also these damsels that you can pick up and move around the levels, and if you get them to the exit of the level, then they give you some health points back. So I had this damsel in my arm, because you can carry them around like objects. I mean, don't get angry if you're a feminist or anything like that. But you're carrying them around, and I saw a trap, and I was like, I didn't have enough health to get past it, so I thought, I don't know how I'm going to set this thing off because I'm just going to die. So just, experimentally, I just tossed my damsel. She fell down, fell past the trap. The dart hit her right in the face, bounced her across the room. She bounced around, landed on a snake, and killed it. And I fucking laughed really hard, and it was incredible because it wasn't just that it was really funny or that it was really clever and that I found some neat way of solving my problem. It was because it was one of thousands of ways I could have solved it. I could have bombed the trap so it didn't exist anymore. I could have used a pickaxe to dig around the trap, and all of those would have come from me. They would have been my decision. It would have been me expressing myself within the gameplay as a true nonlinear game would allow. And I never see this kind of stuff in mainstream titles, which is weird because it seems like gamers actually are hungry for this stuff. Like when you think about a game that you really like everybody at some point or another has thought of their ideal zombie game. We think of our ideal games in terms of nonlinear gameplay. We don't think, wouldn't it be awesome if we had a game where you just ran around a world for a long time, and then you had to do a bunch of really scripted linear missions, and then had to watch scripted cutscenes, and then it ended, and you could really only play the game one or two ways in order to be successful. Like, nobody thinks that way. About a week ago, a guy in our community blogs named Suit Code Avenger wrote an article called "Make This Game Now," and this one was about the Punisher Max, the comic series by Garth Ennis. And in it, he sort of encapsulates this idea that when we think about games we really love hypothetically and we really want to play, we think in nonlinear terms, but mainstream designers don't seem to get that, or at least, it pays them well enough not to do nonlinear stuff. So, I just want to read some of the stuff that he wrote down for his Make This Game Now article, because it really espouses this idea of we love nonlinear, we want more of it, but they don't seem to get that. He's talking about working your way up a crime syndicate and taking out all the people individually. The chain of punishment, that's the name he came up with for the mechanic, starts when Castle enters a territory controlled by one of the gangs. Upon locating and engaging a lower-tier piece of cannon fodder, like a drug dealer or a mugger, Castle has the option of interrogating or punishing the criminal. Punishment is final, a quick execution that boosts Castle's heat by that gang, which, if you pull a lot of heat to you, then one of the soldiers might come along with a hit squad, which draws them to you. Alternatively, the player can choose to interrogate the criminal either with his bare hands or through the environment, including being able to throw the criminal into his trunk and drive him to a secluded area. Interrogation will open up information about one of the soldiers, allowing you to hunt them down on your own, say by taking them out with a sniper rifle from an adjacent building. Eventually, Castle works his way up to the top of the chain of punishment and takes out the crime boss, thus eliminating the gang entirely. And there's other stuff too, like being hunted by Barracuda, this hitman, or you can take a body from one gang and put it on another gang's turf to start a gang war to make it easier to take stuff out. But the point is that when we think about games, we really want nonlinear shit. He didn't think, oh, wouldn't it be fun to have Frank Castle get into a car and drive to a scripted event? He wanted a nonlinear thing, as most of us tend to when we think about games we like. But mainstream games aren't putting forth the effort or the risk to actually give us that, because it's really hard. And I can understand that it's really hard, because Far Cry 2 started out as a game kind of like what he described as the Punisher game, where you can take out an army's morale or their health or their weapons, and their weapons will jam more often if you destroy Weapons Depot, and they'll aim more poorly if you kill their guys really violently, like with a machete or something. That looks great. That sounded great, but they failed on the way, and it turned into something that was not at all like that, and was more about, hey, isn't it great to go around in a really big savannah and have people shooting at you all the time, which is, it was fun, but it wasn't that initial ideal of true nonlinearity, because it's really fucking hard, and I understand that, but I still think that I would just love to see a mainstream game with the amount of agency and the amount of nonlinearity that like Spelunky or Dwarf Fortress or this hypothetical Punisher game offers, with all the pretty graphics and the money and all that bullshit that mainstream games are known for. I would just absolutely love to see that, and I think it could probably change game design for the next decade. That could, everybody who's trying to copy GTA 3 after GTA 3 came out, that could be the new GTA 3, except actually nonlinear.